A very good evening to all our viewers, and a happy new year to everybody, as a matter of fact, and welcome to this first ever edition of this year of the evening review, of course. My name is Toibonje Bella, your host, and I'm heartily welcoming all of you to the show that we hope will provide as much insight into the current affairs of our country as possible in the year ahead. Thank you for joining us. Let's quickly look at some of the headlines in tomorrow's Namibian Sun. Now, schools have started today across the country, and a lot of things are being said and heard about the logistics and everything related thereto, as has become the norm around this time of the year. And to unpack that with us today is Hofni Iipinge. He is the Secretary for Education in the Swapo Party Youth League, to engage us on some of those topics as they see them from their perspective as the youth wing of the ruling party. Mr. Iipinge, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Mr. Njembela.
Yes, wonderful.
Amen for the new year.
Sure, happy new year to you, sir. Give us, maybe just to start with, really, one of the key issues that get talked about a lot is the concept of free education in Namibia. Do we have free education in Namibia, especially for public schools?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, yes, we can say we got a free universal education, which is from grade 1 to grade 12. So it was implemented by the government of the Republic of Namibia within the Ministry of Basic Education. So it's an act of parliament that was passed that we need free universal education so that we can make sure that most of our learners attend schools and they are fully supported by the government. But what we need to understand also, when we talk of free education, it does not take away the parental contribution. So when we talk about free free education, it means that the government is assisting 100% in the implementation of that free education to all our learners in the Republic. So, in the past, we used to have school development fund, which now taken away, and the government has took over to make sure they give or provide or size the schools to fully or full capacity to make sure that at least they give free education to our learners. So, Mr. Njembela, I know the Minister of Basic Education, not only the current one, but from the main planner. This was a plan of the late Abraham Yambo. Those years, may his soul rest in peace. And also it was implemented by the previous minister, uh, Meme Catherine Hansi Maro, it was fully implemented by Minister Katrina Imara. Then it continued with the current minister also that we have, or the current administration that we have. So what we need to know is that that does not take away the parental contribution, because our people, when they hear about free education, they don't want to contribute anything. They think government will provide everything. So it does not mean like that.
You.
So what we need to know is that parental contribution is still needed, and as parents, they need to to assist the government or meet the government halfway in making sure that at least the school have got enough materials for our children to learn. So the concept of free education simply means the government is it's making sure that no children will be removed from school because maybe of for example, the children is from the poor family, and the family could not able to pay for the school fees of that child. Therefore, the government says no, because of the Article 20 that we have. We talk of right to education to all of our learners. So it's also, it's a concept that we need to understand that education in Namibia is not it's not a want, but it's something that is really implemented to make sure that education is a right to all the Namibian children, yes, from grade 1 to grade 12.
Yeah. No. Thank you, Hofni, for that elaborate answer. But just to go back to what you said, you spoke about the fact that there used to be something called the School Development Fund. You and I are originally from, we have attended, I'm sure, we've attended schools where we paid really small time money. Maybe and I mean really small money. And I'm not just speaking because of my circumstances today that I can afford a few things. There were days when we paid maybe $10 a semester or whatever. Now parents are required to pay, and you said we must meet government halfway. But how are you meeting government halfway when you as a parent are required to buy textbooks for all textbooks for your children, notebooks, the stationeries? How is that being met halfway by government? In what way is government actually meeting you halfway?
Yes, I think this one is, it was a wrong directive that was issued by the Ministry of Education, Art and Culture, because I think we discussed this 2 years back. I remember those directives that most of our colleagues are issuing, they are not correct. So if you have been if you have been following currently, last year, it was December last year, so the minister issued, but let me say not it's a minister because it was signed by the executive director, Mrs. Steenkamp, issued a directive on parental contribution, which I read, and I step up by calling the minister and ask what is happening. So these colleagues in the offices, I think there are those one who don't want to follow what the minister is saying, or they are not following the concept of free education from the onset. It was categorically clear that, when we talk of free education, so it does not mean that okay, let me say it's like it's like a controversy. It sometimes maybe colleagues are also having different beliefs or different understanding, which I think is also very, very much frustrating the parents and also learners out there. So that directive that was issued on parental contribution, it gives a list of stationaries to be bought by the parents, which is not correct. So when I saw it, I reflect back because I know. So and also that directive was retracted also last year. That there is no way you talk about free education, but at the same time, school principals are sending parents list of stationaries. If you've been also following since last year and this year, like like this time around when schools are starting, the shops that sell stationaries, there are queue of parents with their children came to buy stationery for their children, but it's not really that they have to. So we got a secular that was also directed on the 4th of January to after we retract the other one with a list of 100 of stationaries to be bought by parents, which I told the minister that it was not correct. So then, when we talk of parents meeting government halfway, does not mean that the stationary fund is not available. The stationary fund have been availed by the government to support schools in buying stationaries. For example, let me give you an example. I have been in consultation with different directors looking in the largest regions, especially Angwena or Umsati, Commerce, and we talk of Oshana. So, even today when I talk also to the director of Oshana, they said they receive 5 millions from the Ministry of Education, and they already send this money to schools. So that the schools will buy their own stationaries. Let me give you an example again of one school in Oshana, which is also a government school. So that school, it's Charles Anderson in Ongwediva. So the list of stationery they sent out to parents, it was only a calculator. But other schools are sending a list of stationaries consisting of more than 50. So it's a lot. Imagine you have 5 kids in the that belongs to different grades, and you are a pensioner. How are you going to cope? And you got also some children that are also at the universities or other institution of higher learning. How are you going to cope? So for us to say government is providing, even though there are some directives that are really disturbing, is that the government is having a stationary budget within the Ministry of Education, and the ministry has already dispensed this money to regions, and the regions are busy, buying those stationery. Either, the regions, they put up their own arrangements. For example, Hangwena, they purchase centrally. So they purchase centrally, then they buy their own stationery and distribute to schools. Other regions, the government send money to the regional directors. Then the regional directors send to distribute to schools within within the region, and the schools buy their own stationery because
Yeah.
they know their own needs.
We are going on a short break, Mr. Iipinge, and then we return.
All right.
We continue our conversation with Hofni Iipinge, who is Secretary for Education in the Swapo Party Youth League. Now, Hofni, the concept of free education has been or was implemented long ago. It's not last year, it's not this year. It has been on the cards or in practice, as a matter of fact, for quite a number of years now. The fact that we still have schools sending parents long lists of items, I'm afraid we cannot just blame it on some administrative officials who are not following the directive, or the schools just simply wanting to burden the parents. Is this not because schools are being promised funds? I spoke to Executive Director Steenkamp myself last week, and that was also when she released the list of 51 million that had been distributed to schools for stationeries. The fact that schools are still coming back to the parents and saying, please buy these things, to me means the funds are not reaching schools, or they are reaching schools but in very small proportions that cannot sustain those schools. Why do we have an issue year in, year out of parents being bombarded with these requests in a world supposedly of free universal education?
Yeah, if I can come in again, Mr. Njembela, we got a circular. This circular was also issued when I again saw that directive last year, December. Then I called the minister. What is happening? So the minister explained. So they retracted that directive of those long list stationery that some of the colleagues are sending to the parents. So this was a new circular that we need to follow. It's a new circular after the one that was retracted early. This was just written on the 4th of January. And we talk of voluntary contribution. That's what I'm saying. It's not a compulsory. So we are not saying parents should not assist. I know we as a government also, I don't know where the delay is coming from, if the money is available, but sometimes we have been also speaking about this year in and out, that at least we should give stationaries to the, or money or funds of stationery to the schools before the December, immediately before the teacher close the school for December holiday, or either early January before the learner come back to start with classes. Sometimes also, I don't know where the challenge really is, because money comes late to schools. Schools are receiving money very late from the government. which I think is the core key that is forcing the teachers to send parents to buy stationery, so that there's no way the learner is coming to school 2 weeks but there's no stationery at school. Apparently the stationery is still coming, but 2 weeks no education is going on, because there's no exercise books, there's no pen, there's no chalks, there's nothing. But the money is given, but the people who are responsible to purchase those stationaries are not coming forth. So that's why the government, or through the Minister of Basic Education, Arts and Culture, they said schools that can be able to purchase their own stationery, they can receive the money, then they go purchase their own stationeries. Those one that don't see, or maybe are not capable, because there are those one, you send the money, then they divert them for something else, or either they chop them up, or either they receive the money and just have those money on the bank account for nothing. There are schools that are, they are saving. I don't know what are they saving. It's like an investment, but for whom are you saving? So, and I know the minister have been in and out last year, checking in some of those schools' account. Some of the schools in the south there were 500,000. What is the 500,000 doing on the school account while the learners don't have stationaries or they don't have textbooks? And the minister has taken an action that we are going to take all those money and back to the government coffer, because it's like those schools, they don't need those money. At the end of the day, you got money, 500,000 on the school account, but yet you don't have stationery at the school and you don't have textbook for the learners. Learners are suffering, and you are, you are sending learners to go back to their parents and buy them stationery. Why you got government money on the school account?
I get
So
you.
those are some of the things. That's why the ministry went in the field and make sure that some of this should be dealt with and should be stopped, and these people should be addressed. That there's no way you can have an investment on the school account. It's a public money, public school. So you get money to us to solve the problem of the learners. Then if you finish those money, you should go back again. Okay, this is my report, and this is how I spend the money, and I still need more. Then if there's some money's left, they can also be assisted. So I wanted also to go on the provision of stationery, just to read it for you quickly.
Yeah, briefly, yes.
Provision of stationeries. This one is just a guidelines for stationeries per subject or per grade. Parental contribution that were issued on the 20th December 2021, and that is what I was telling you from the onset, should only be used as a guideline and a starting point of dialogue between schools and parents. Schools should be able to clearly indicate which of the items on the stationery list can be supplied by the school and which item could be supplemented by the parents. So, as is the case with all the stakeholders, it is crucial that transparent discussions are held and agreed reached at school levels. No child should be excluded, stigmatized, labeled, or discriminated against in the event that resources of any kind could not be contributed or matched. That is a new directive.
I
So
you.
whoever is going to take this directive, vice versa, then that person should be dealt with.
I hear you. No, thank you for that. You see, the challenge, Mr. Hofni, is Mr. Iipinge, is that some schools, and I'm sure the viewers, a lot of viewers, the parents, must have seen letters not only dealing with stationaries, they're even asking items for schools. In other words, you get a list that says, bring cleaning detergents. For me, it has gotten ridiculous completely that even that has been pushed to parents. I'm moving to the new subject now, but on this one, I am just saying that you as a youth league of the ruling party, and the ruling party itself, and government ought to do better. This is not the legacy that you want when you leave office one day, that this suffering was presided over by yourselves. I am in a better position, perhaps. I can afford a few things. There are parents elsewhere around the country, north, south, west, and east, that cannot afford it. So I'm just a bit worried about it. But I've spoken to the executive director last week in my private capacity as a concerned citizen, and I've raised some of those things with her. And she obviously said that they are doing everything to rectify these things. The other thing, Mr. Iipinge, then related to that closely is the unavailability of spaces in schools. I read in the Namibian this morning that your region, Oshana region, has run out of, I think they said grade 1 and another grade, I can't remember the details now. Where are our priorities? Why do we have a small country like ours with so many resources, with a small population, but we are struggling to accommodate our children in classrooms?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. As I'm speaking right now, I'm in Oshana region. And I also read that story in the newspaper, I think yesterday, about the placement, lack of classrooms and space to accommodate our learners. Yes, I have been spoken also. I went to that extent, and I have been spoken. I spoke to the regional director. So that what you need to understand also, Comrade Jembela, me as a secretary for education in the Swapo Party Youth League, I'm not an implementer. I'm just an advocate. So we are only advocating for what is in the Swapo manifesto to be implemented. But if the implementers are failing, we have been taking them on because we deployed them. They were deployed by the Swapo government, but some of the people, when they got in their offices, they forgot that they are coming from that small office in Katutura. It's where they are coming from. So when they will go there, they forgot. I don't know whether our ministers are not hands-on, or maybe they are being dominated by the technocrats. I don't know what is happening, because you go there, you talk, you have meetings, but when you go back, things are like going upside down. So what you have just said now about the unavailability of spaces for our learners in the region, I went further up to Msati, further up to Angwena, I went further up to Oshkoto, I went further up to Hardap in Katima. I was just, pointing out some schools where I know that, regions where I know that some of these regions are, that they're very high and they might facing a lot of challenges. We speak in Oshana, but the directors, because we have a conversation with her today, when I read that article yesterday. So the space which is not available, it's for the grade, the placement of the grade 10, and also the grade 8 as well. And we got only 164 learners who could not get space as we speak in Oshana, and they are all from Ongwediva. So others are out. The school has just started today, and there's a lot of challenges at every beginning of the school. And because of this COVID-19 also came to disturb also, there are COVID regulations that if kids used to sit like 35 kids in the classroom, the ratio of one teacher is 35 learners in one classroom. So now you have to divide them. The number has been cut because of the COVID-19 regulations. So that means that you need more classroom, or you need to build some blocks at specific schools. So what the Oshana came up with, if you were studying, for example, in GT, Gabriel Apopi Secondary School, and up to grade 9, so they cannot move you. Maybe if you want to move to grade 10 somewhere at other school elsewhere in the region, so that cannot be allowed, because you should just continue with grade 10 at that specific school because of that challenge of classroom or spaces. So as we speak, we have that challenges in Ongwediva, where we got 164 learners who could not get placement, but the director assured me that they are working on it, and by the end of today, they should find out where to put them. So, and also how to distribute them up to different secondary schools in Oshana. So and also the challenge also coming from grade 1 in Oshana, and I think it's also regions. When parents applied for the pre-primary and upper primary, those raw primary phases, there's a possibility that one child can be admitted at 3 different schools. Then now when that child is admitted at 3 different schools, it's obviously the parents will eliminate the other school and just choose one. So the parents are also taking so long to come and say, okay, my child is admitted at different schools.
Mr. Iipinge, I'm losing you. I think internet connections is not good enough, but I think we've done justice to the subject, and therefore we can end here for now, but thank you for your time. We will observe how things go. Thank you, viewers, for your time, and good night.